Hey, I'm Guy.
I'm John.
It's our YouTube channel. Subscribe to this channel and give this video a like.
Yep. Give this video a like. Also, podcast below in the description. Check it out.
BYU Coastal Carolina. People loved the game, John.
Was
People
good.
loved the game. It was a good game.
Got TV one in my house.
Did it? It got
Yeah, I mean, it was just like,
stream.
there was just other random games on, and I was just like, I'm watching this thing. And then clearly, now part of it, not part of it, the only reason I would not have watched the game, whether BYU was ranked at the same level, if they did not have a quarterback that was not going to go in. If they just had Haberman or Middlecoff playing quarterback, and he was a really good college player, but no one viewed him as like a top 5 pick, probably doesn't even get a TV in my house. But I immediately went to it and it really enjoyed it. And honestly, I came away, we'll get into Zach, like Coastal Carolina, like that was a big time non-power 5. Like that's UCF playing Boise State. Like that was impressive. Like, those two teams are good.
Yeah. Even
though BYU, they're not power 5 just because they're independent, but they are a power 5 program, right? Is that fair?
I look at them like a high-end group of 5 that has power 5 level talent. I just have a hard time because they play really good schedule. They've not been in that they've not had that Boise year, right?
But they don't play a Boise schedule. Like
no,
one
they
of Boise's
don't, but they have
not.
But they just I've seen them a few years recent where it's like they were supposed. Now was when Zach Wilson was younger, and they just did not. People like BYU fans are complaining about Kalani Sitake 2 years ago, so it's kind of felt like they tried to put him on the hot seat. Yeah. Now
we'll get into this because I think this game's going to be nitpicked for Zach Wilson, maybe in a negative way. I thought the coaches were pretty crappy. I thought they were crappy. I was not impressed. Like, honestly, I left the game thinking there was like a 4th and 1. They ran a double pass. It's like, hey, guys. Now, Coastal Carolina, I'd have to text some friends. Look like they had some NFL dudes up front. They have this defensive end, 94, that slammed Zach Wilson at the end of the first half, like on the ground a couple times. He was making plays all night. They clearly are.
I thought, as someone who loves, I thought he should have been ejected for that. I thought he was. I was watching.
He was.
He was not.
He was not because then the second half opens. He chases Zach Wilson, gets a late hit penalty when he shoves Zach Wilson out of bounds. So he was right on the line, right?
I was sitting on a plane at the end of the first half, streaming the game on my phone because we were on the tarmac for an hour after we landed. Airlines have no accountability. I don't even know who to yell at. It sucks. They don't give you anybody really that you can yell at. It's bullshit. Sorry, bull crap.
You sound like media guy that gets mad about that.
That's why I didn't tweet it. I'm just complaining. But anyway, I'm on the plane for an hour. Multiple other people on the plane. I can hear them talking about the game. Like, did you see that hit? Like, other people we're on the tarmac. People go straight to stream the BYU Coastal game. It was just a big deal. And, on interceptions, quarterbacks are defenseless players. Like, that's why I thought it's not like they were doing that to somebody else. Quarterbacks are qualified as defenseless players on interception returns. So, that was. Yeah, it was high level. But anyway, to get to him, that's what this is about. I watched him and thought, if I am scouting Zach Wilson for the NFL, I come away only feeling, maybe you wouldn't feel better, but I don't feel any worse than I did about him being a top 5 or top 10 pick or whatever. He made a few throws. His athleticism is so obvious. His arm talent is so obvious. Clearly a competitor. He didn't do anything to hurt his stock in that game. I think he helped it just because he keeps putting plays on tape that are just really unique, athletic, special plays. He had 1 foot running throw down the field that was incredible. I thought
he makes some Sandlot level. I bet if we went back to watch Mahomes, I don't think he has quite the arm. He doesn't. Like I would say his arm is good. It's not like elite. I'm talking NFL level. Like obviously college, he's got a really good arm. But when NFL level, like it's not gonna be like Rodgers or Mahomes, but it's gonna be really good. It's not Kirk Cousins or whatever. He'll be fine. And clearly his ability to move around and the 2 wide receivers, like those guys are NFL players. That was my other takeaway. Like he is playing with NFL guys and he makes them look really good. Romney's a good player. I think Milne, the fast guy, good player too. He's the best player on the team and he makes them pretty damn good. And clearly Coastal is a really good program too. Like that was just a really impressive game. I also think where it's going to help them or help him is that like you're evaluating that game as a GM or as a scout on physical tools and competition, and he drives them right down the field at the end of the game with the game on the line, and they get stopped at like the 1 yard line to lose the game. And he never tapped out. Like, they're not, well, he missed this throw on third. Like, guy, they put together the game basically Thursday, right? I mean, it's just, this is not a normal circumstance.
Right.
It honestly puts into light. I saw Stuart Mandel tweet out something that's like, I never want to hear any ADs anymore talk about, like, you don't understand how hard it is to get these things scheduled. It's like, they just did a game. And they were talking about, I'm pretty sure the play-by-play guy was like, they don't really have a contract, which is unheard of in college. It's not like they paid him out or whatever. They just got a game and they just played it for TV. They didn't pay him to show up or anything. It's just, honestly, it's probably like old school 1980s football. Like, hey, you guys want to play next week or whatever? Or, back in the day when you probably scheduled games just 6 months in advance or whatever. Hey, we'll play this week. And now it's, if you want to go play, the reason you play Alabama is for $1 million, or when Fresno does this, it was no, we're just playing. And I think it's fair to say, Guy, what was cool about this for Zach Wilson and his program ultimately did this game is I think it's going to help him, one. And two, it's like they just did it.
Yeah, I give them a break.
They didn't worry about winning or losing or how it was going to. They just fucking did it.
I give them a break because I do think, as much as everyone says, like, it just shows you don't need to schedule that far in advance. But I think it's clear you also can't schedule. Forget about 2 weeks in advance or 3 days in advance. Even the season of, right? This year is so unique. You're so flexible because you don't have fans. People don't need to travel. You don't have anybody, family coming to games. You don't need to hotel rooms.
Coastal had a few.
Yeah, but I just mean hotel rooms are easy to get. The hotel rooms are just available. All the charters are just available, right? Charter companies are willing to work with you because they need your business really badly. So
honestly, that hasn't crossed my mind. It's probably never been easier to get hotels right now, huh? For a large group of people.
Never.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't think about that.
So, but there was all of that. But I'm with you. I give them full credit for playing the game. I don't know if they had 2 weeks to prepare or even a week to prepare or if it's a home game or maybe they win the game. When I watch them back.
Because at the end of the day, football is not meant to be played like that.
No,
right?
It's not.
Thursday play on a Saturday.
But that's
Sunday.
what made it
that's
so
just
fun.
not the way the sport works.
That's what made it fun is that they both made it work. Now, to your point on how do you view them if they're not an independent? I mean, under Bronco in the Mountain West, this is what a BYU fan would say. It's like they had 4 straight double-digit win seasons. 3 of them were 11 wins. 5 out of 6 years they won 10-plus games. The first 10-win season, or the first year as an independent, they won 10 games. They've been an 8, 9, 7. Most, they've probably been averaging, I would say, 8, 8.5. Just looking at the last 9 years since then.
And their schedule has been dramatically harder the last 8 years.
Now, when I say high-end G5, that doesn't mean you're worse than the worst Power 5. Like, they are better than, they're better. They can beat a lot of Power 5 teams. And I think if they did the Utah thing and jumped to a Power 5, they could win whatever Power 5 league they're in. I would give them a chance. Like, they would have a chance to win that league once they were there, right? Utah style.
Because I'm just going to use this number, even though I know it's not the number. Let's say there are 50 programs in the Power 5, right? Let's say there's 60, give or take. But I'm just going to use the number.
I think it's like 60, 62, 65.
Okay, so let's just use Boise State as the best non-Power 5 just over the last 20 years. They are, of those 60, they're only like 15 to 20 programs better than them on a yearly basis, right? When you just factor in success and winning. So I agree, just because they are better than half the teams in the Pac-12, half the teams in the ACC, maybe more in the ACC, right? They would finish whatever. But like you said, once you play, and I think you see it, they basically play like a smorgasbord of the Pac-12 and maybe the Big Ten and a little Big 12. Like they win 8 or 9 games.
Yeah.
Which
makes it hard.
But Alabama and those teams do too. Right?
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm just saying, their schedule is Northern Illinois, Hawaii, Boise, UMass, New Mexico State. Like a couple years ago, they played Arizona, Cal, Wisconsin, Washington, Utah, Boise, Utah State, Hawaii. Like that's a legit schedule.
And when you get a quarterback like Zach Wilson, you could, on a given year with that really tough schedule, they could have gone 11-1. Like of the schedule they were playing. Like if you would normally have the chance to prepare for their games and get ready. Like this team is really good. This team, I'm just talking about this team. Like they have teams, and same with Boise, when their quarterback isn't as good, they're not as good. This guy makes them really good. And clearly, I have respect for Coastal. I think if BYU plays Coastal 10 times and can game plan when they have the best player on the field, who is a top 10 quarterback, hell, I mean, guy, there's a decent chance. Like, I just don't see how this guy doesn't go top 5. I mean, he's just too physically gifted. And he's too, like, he's the modern day of what the teams are looking for, right? He is the Josh Allens, the Mahomes, the Deshaun's. Like, you move, you throw, you're accurate, you can throw deep, but you have touch. Like, you kind of, like, this is what you want.
Yep.
Like, this is what, like, remember when everyone used to drool over, like, a Roethlisberger? It's like, he's 6'5" and he sits in the pocket. But he was a smaller school guy. This is, to me, like, these type guys now are the modern day that, right? Or Rivers or whatever. That is Zach Wilson. That is Trey Lance. That's why, to me, Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, wouldn't you say 15 years ago, in a draft class with Rivers, Roethlisberger, those guys would have been ahead of him. If you put Rivers in their draft class, I think more teams are going to like the mobile guys, right? If Jared Goff was in this draft class, how would he go ahead of these guys?
He wouldn't. No. He wouldn't.
He just wouldn't. So it's just.
And we're talking about top 5 in a good quarterback class, we think, right?
And I'd say, guy, just a good draft. I mean,
yeah.
Jamar Chase.
Devontae Smith.
You see Devontae Smith's numbers. Jalen Waddle's a sweep. Penei Sewell. Like, this is a draft that I would imagine once, like, legit nerdy draft talks in full swing, like March, there are going to be anonymous scouts going, I think there could be like 7, 8 Pro Bowlers in the top 15, right? I think this draft's going to be very highly thought of. Like, last year was all about the wide receivers. I think people are going to say, like, the top 10 in this draft has impact players.
Yeah.
Because I'm just thinking a couple of the wide receivers, Penei Sewell, some of these quarterbacks. I think a lot of guys are going to go, like, this guy, this group of 10 players, all of them have the chance to make Pro Bowl, right? Which I think sometimes is not the case. Like this year, I think people thought, like, all the tackles were solid, but it's pretty clear, like, Becton and Wirfs are better than the early 2 tackles. Like, right. Everyone's going to go, yeah, I think Penei Sewell is your tackle for 10 years and should make 7 Pro Bowls, right?
Yep.
I think Jamar Chase and Jalen Waddle and Trevor Lawrence are lock Pro Bowlers. I think that, and this is where Zach Wilson is going to be like, I think people are going to think Zach Wilson or Trey Lance, or maybe both of them, they're going to be talked about as super high ceiling guys, which to me makes the draft like that. When you get, we got some low floor guys or high floor guys, like, boring. Give me guys you're fucking, I think this guy could be a Hall of Famer. Like,
then teams start trading a bunch.
Don't you think either Trey Lance or Zach Wilson, would it shock you if you just see, like, an anonymous guy make a bold claim about one of the two of them?
No, and it feels like at this point Trey Lance is the much bigger projection just based on how many games he's played, who he's played, who he hasn't played.
Well, that's why this guy, the BYU ending up just them pulling off a 10 and they're going to get a bowl game. I guess they still have San Diego State. Has any one individual player benefited more from this season than Zach Wilson?
No, because we haven't seen Justin Fields hasn't really benefited. But, Trevor Lawrence didn't need to. ETN, no.
Jamar Chase quit. Mason quit. They didn't need to.
Bama, whatever. We already know what we thought of those guys. Yeah, maybe
this guy went.
Like Kyle Trask isn't like people aren't talking about him like he's a future NFL player. His arm's not that strong. He's having a great year, right? Yeah. Maybe he'll ultimately benefit though.
I think people are trying to prop him up. I don't think he might win the Heisman. I think he's going to. I don't think in any NFL circles people are going to talk about Kyle Trask like
no, but
Zach
I'm
Wilson.
just saying maybe he goes from being a 4th round quarterback to a 2nd round quarterback or something, or Mac Jones goes from being a 5th round quarterback to a 2nd round quarterback. But no, if you had a draft, if you did a draft after the 2020 draft, projecting 2021, where would Zach Wilson have been?
Well, I don't think he would have been really talked about as an NFL player because he's still an underclassman, right? He still could come back after this year. I just don't think people were talking about him in NFL circles.
Well,
to me, that's what's powerful.
Just means freshman or sophomore, right?
Well, I'm just saying he's not a senior.
He's not a senior.
So, like, he has another year of eligibility. Yeah, however
really
you say.
He has 2, I guess, if he wants it, right? Because this year's a free year. Doesn't need it.
That's a good point. Yeah. Like, listen, I don't know. Sometimes BYU guys are a little different. Trevor Lawrence is gone, right? He participated in the senior day. Justin Fields is gone. Trey Lance, his season ended. He's literally been training for the NFL draft. It is not a lock. Like, we've seen it before. Just, I don't know enough about it. It sure feels like it, but Mariota luck. I'm just saying, like, we'll see. quarterback draft. I'd be shocked if he doesn't come out, but I haven't seen a quote like Zach Wilson's coming out.
Maybe someone from one of the BYU message Cougar board or something can let us know.
It's
That's
not like
not
I'm not
sarcasm. I'm being serious.
BYU guys come out early. They've produced a bunch of NFL players lately. They're on a pretty good run, guy. I mean, Fred Warner, this guy. I mean,
Yeah,
Ziggy had a good run for a while. They've had some impact players.
You're right. They have all the earmarks of a Power 5, not a Group of 5 program. Maybe it's just because I'm so used to seeing them play.
I think, guys, this one, though, will take it to another. When you get a quarterback, and then it's all of a sudden like I'm just trying to think of like the Washington football team playing the Eagles on Monday night, starting quarterback Zach Wilson from BYU. Like that just becomes a thing. And then if he's good, BYU as a quarterback, to me that really, I think Aaron Rodgers really kind of took Cal to another level. Like when you get a quarterback, it's like it just your program feels. I think it could exponentially help them.
Yeah, although I would argue like Cal, I don't know that. Like it was different, right? Because when he left Cal, he was the #1 pick, but it didn't do anything for Cal. I don't know. I feel like BYU's bigger in many ways than a lot of Power 5s.
It is.
I mean, it's an obvious thing, but I don't. Yeah,
maybe
I mean, I'm not saying he's not going to hurt him, but I don't know. What has Patrick Mahomes really done for Texas Tech?
Yeah, but what can't, like, to me, Texas Tech is just capped out as a program. You can't, they just are what they are. Like BYU is probably, they go to toe with like Utah for some guys that,
but
like,
they probably already do, is what I'm saying. Like, I think they already do.
Well, I know maybe that like gets them over the edge on a couple guys. One thing, both those two programs just produce a lot of NFL guys. Imagine if maybe the 3 DBs that went to Utah, if 2 of them went to BYU instead, or whatever, right?
Yeah.
I just think they're looking at similar kids. I would say Utah, the last 6 or 7 years, I don't even know head to head, but just overall has been better. They've been more nationally relevant because they've been close to winning the Pac-12, and they just feel a little bit bigger. And part of it's the conference, and they've just been arguably the second best team in the conference, them and Oregon. That maybe they just kind of get, it just helps their recruiting.
Yeah.
It can't hurt.
No, it can't. And hopefully
because
the fact that there's such a big program helps
about is just so big, right?
Yeah. But I think part of that has to be like, did he become him because he was there, or it kind of feels like he was just going to be him no matter what, wherever he went.
Well, you said you called one of their games and you could tell he was really talented when he was young.
Freshman year. Yeah. And it was like, how did this guy not end up at Utah? And the answer was Utah had another player. They had to commit, Jack Tuttle, who they said we're not recruiting anybody else. He wanted to go to Utah. You're right. Maybe the next Zach Wilson wants to just go to.
Like when I was at Fresno State, Derek Carr just came, and it was like clearly he was more talented than basically everyone on the West Coast. It's like, why is this guy here and not somewhere else? Like USC should have been all over him. Cal wanted him. So sometimes you just, whatever your connection is, that guy just ends up at a program. Like, why doesn't LSU have the top quarterback every year? Well, they never do, really, right?
Yeah.
It's just,
or Michigan.
It's sometimes there is just some randomness. I do think with quarterbacks a little bit, just how a guy's going to develop, the maturity aspect of it, your physical tools. Like you do. It's probably underrated how truly hard it is at like the high level football, Power 5, even not like Boise, BYU, UCF, like how much time that position really has to give as he's going to school, as he's cool guy on campus, girlfriend. Like you're not really getting paid, depending on where you are. It's tough, and I would imagine maturity really separates. Because a lot of these guys, and we see it all the time, like all these physical freaks, and some of it is just, it's hard to play quarterback. So like your physical, like we've seen a lot of guys physically like Zach Wilson over the years that just, whatever reason, don't make plays, right? Adrian Martinez at Nebraska, it just didn't work. You watched at high school, you're like, this guy's going to kill it in Nebraska for Scott Frost. And then he starts playing, and if you watch 2 or 3 games, you're like, yeah, this guy's just not good.
Yeah.
I think you get a lot of guys that, in theory, should be 6'3", 6'4", they can move and they got a big arm, and then the game starts and it's just like, how often does that happen in college football? And on big Power 5 programs,
all the time.
I think
this guy's been obviously good from the beginning.
Yep.
This guy's been obviously good from the beginning. Now, not obviously this, but that's why I hope that in the end they still end up in a really good
quarterback
against a good team.
To be a good quarterback in college and definitely in the pros, you are a little dependent on who you're throwing to. Remember that was like, look at Josh Allen, like who's he really throwing to? I think this year you're going, and they were mentioning last night on the broadcast, these guys are going to play in the NFL.
Right.
Romney 6'3", and Milne can fly.
And that's my point.
These
Is like
guys
they have been being that, right? Like they have consistently for years, not just like Bronco, like 4 decades, produced NFL level, big time NFL talent. Like I said.